Hello everyone, welcome to the series summarizing the novel Lord of the Mysteries on the AniMonolith channel. In continuation of previous parts, several storylines unfold concurrently. Audrey Hall, while testing her spectator powers, discovers something unusual about her dog Susie. Alger Wilson, on a solitary ship, has a mission to capture a listener from the Aurora Order. Meanwhile, a young boy named Jack sails on a mysterious ship with his estranged father, who speaks passionately about the Creator and divinity, leaving Jack confused and apprehensive. Back at the Blackthorn Security Company, Klein returns after lunch with old Neil, planning to visit the Divination Club, but Captain Dunn Smith arrives and updates him on the search for Ray Bieber and the missing Antigonos family journal. Dunn reveals that Ray likely has the journal and orders surveillance at ports and train stations, even arranging for a sealed artifact from Backlund to confirm Ray's connection to the Antigonos family. After leaving Blackthorn, Klein headed to the Divination Club. In the main hall, he encountered the receptionist, Angelica, who was intently reading a magazine. Remembering the magazines for ladies, noble women, and families that Benson had mentioned earlier, Klein found the coincidence amusing and couldn't help but smile. After greeting Angelica, she cheerfully informed him that Glassy had returned to the club and had left a message thanking Klein for his miraculous ability to diagnose his illness, which had saved him from an early death. After delivering Glassy's message, Angelica didn't forget to address Klein respectfully as doctor. Surprised by this, Klein quickly denied it, but Angelica seemed confused as to why Glassy regarded Klein as a doctor while Klein himself rejected this title of honor. As he pondered how to explain, Klein suddenly remembered that his divination service at the club had yet to attract any clients. Realizing what he needed to do, Klein knew that promoting his fortune-telling abilities was the key to becoming a true seer. Klein then explained to Angelica that his discovery of Glassy's illness was based on a divination technique, specifically palm reading. Although Angelica seemed inclined to believe that Klein had indeed performed divination for Glassy, she was still curious as to how Klein could use divination without touching Glassy's hand or any personal belongings. Klein explained that he had divined based on Glassy's complexion. For the sake of furthering his career as a seer, Klein lightly tapped his glabella twice, pretending to be deep in thought. Immediately, Angelica's aura appeared before his eyes. Her head was purple, her limbs red, and her throat blue. She was healthy, with nothing abnormal, except that the colors were slightly faded, which was a normal sign of fatigue. Klein also observed her emotions, seeing a mix of orange with hints of red and blue, indicating warmth, excitement, and contemplation. After detecting nothing unusual, Klein was about to turn off his spirit vision when he suddenly noticed a deep, distinct darkness lying beneath Angelica's emotions. After quietly observing Angelica's aura, leaving her feeling uneasy, Klein finally advised her to engage in sports, find relaxing activities, and, if possible, release her sorrow, perhaps by crying or shouting. Angelica remained silent for a moment, then murmured her thanks. This confirmed that Klein's earlier assessment had been entirely accurate. After bidding farewell to Angelica, Klein headed to the club's conference room. Inside, he noticed Hannes Vincent surrounded by several others. Shortly after, Angelica brought Klein a cup of tea, as he had requested. However, Klein didn't drink it right away. Instead, he took out a silver chain with a pure yellow quartz pendant. Holding the chain in his left hand, Klein dangled the yellow quartz just above the cup of tea, almost touching the liquid. Then, he concluded that the tea at the club was of excellent quality. Witnessing Klein's special and mysterious actions, Angelica was thoroughly impressed with his fortune-telling abilities. Of course, Klein had done this intentionally to catch Angelica's attention. If he wanted people to seek his services for divination, Angelica's role as the receptionist and recommender was incredibly important. Indeed, Klein's tactic of drawing Angelica's attention worked to some extent. After returning to the reception area, a young woman in a light blue dress, with a gentle yet sorrowful expression, arrived at the club seeking a fortune-telling session. However, since there were so many members at the club today, the young woman didn't know whom to choose among the numerous options. She, with her melancholic and sorrowful appearance, turned to Angelica for a recommendation. Hearing this, Angelica immediately suggested Klein. When the young woman saw that Klein was listed as a beginner, she became doubtful of his abilities. Angelica reassured her, mentioning that both she and another club member could vouch for Mr. Moretti's skills as an excellent fortune-teller. She added that, if not for his recent arrival, his fees would be much higher. With this assurance, the woman chose Klein as her fortune-teller. After Angelica brought the girl to meet Klein, Klein requested to have his fortune read in the golden crystal room. When Angelica finished preparing the room, Klein asked for the name of his first client since joining the club. The girl, looking sad and frail, introduced herself as Anna. She wanted a reading for her fiancé, who had traveled to the southern continent for business in March. He'd sent a telegram in the last month, telling her and his family he'd be returning soon, but more than 20 days had passed without any sign of him. Initially, she thought the delay was due to the Berserk Sea's weather, but over a month later, his boat still hadn't reached Anmat port. Upon hearing the location Anna mentioned, Klein recalled relevant knowledge that was part of the original Klein. The sea separating the northern and southern continents is called the Berserk Sea, which is known for its storms and is notorious for its danger. If it weren't for Emperor Roselle sending people to explore relatively safe routes, perhaps the countries on the northern continent would not have been able to enter the colonial era until today, let alone laying down telegraph cables under the sea to create a telegraph network. Klein then asked Anna how she would like her fortune read. Anna replied that since Klein was the fortune teller, he would know which method would be the most effective, so she left it up to him to choose. As long as it wasn't playing cards or tarot, because Anna had practiced those methods at home and felt they were more like entertainment. Based on the client's feedback, Klein suggested reading her fortune using a star chart. He asked her to write down her fiancé's name, physical description, address, and date of birth, noting that an exact time would be even better if she could provide it. From her appearance, makeup, and demeanor, Klein believed that his first client was not uneducated. As Klein made the request, the girl picked up a pen and began to write down the information, occasionally pausing as if she were contemplating something. When Anna handed Klein the paper, he placed his hand on it, turned it to his perspective, and read the information written: Joyce Meyer, 2 p.m. on September 15, 1323, 8, Stevens Street, East District, Tingen City, short blonde hair, hawk-like nose. Just a glance was enough for Klein to quickly calculate the birth number of the other person, 6, in numerology, which falls under the realm of mysticism. Adding the numbers in the birth date results in what is known as the birth number, indicating a person's life up to the age of 27, while the month number, the sum of the numbers in the birth month, applies from 27 to 54 years, and the year number, the sum of the numbers in the birth year, is for 54 years and older. It is currently July 1349, and Joyce is under 27 years old, so Klein added the birth number as well. The number 6 indicates a balanced, harmonious life with valuable love and a decent marriage, or it could be said to refer to a future marriage. He then calculated the annual limitation number for the other person. The annual limitation number is obtained by taking the current year instead of the birth year and adding it to the birth number, the month number, to arrive at the general fortune for the year. Klein then asked, "Did Joyce Meyer depart on June 3rd? Upon hearing this, Anna replied that if her fiancé wasn't lying, then that was indeed correct. Klein then asked Anna to wait outside while he performed the necessary operations. Anna agreed and quickly left the room. Alone in the golden crystal room, Klein locked the door and returned to the table, using the birth date and various time markers to draw a star chart, including details like constellations, planets, and their positions in the sky. During this process, he hardly referred to the astrology handbook, completing everything from memory. This was because, during his mysticism course under Old Neil's guidance, Klein discovered that once he finished learning about divination, he could use it effortlessly, turning it into instinct. Reflecting on this impressive ability to remember and internalize knowledge, Klein recognized that this was the power of a seer. Klein then based his predictions on the positions of the planets and constellations, deducing through supportive symbols that Joyce Meyer would encounter an accident but would ultimately escape. By this point, the divination could be considered complete, but Klein valued this first order highly, wanting to resolve everything as thoroughly and meticulously as possible. The higher his reputation in the club, the easier it would be for him to play the role of a seer. Thus, Klein continued to write a line of Hermes on the paper Anna had used, the current situation of Joyce Meyer. He then murmured this phrase and memorized the information about her birth date on the paper, repeating it over and over. After 7 repetitions, Klein took the paper and leaned back in his chair. Klein then entered a state of cogitation. He decided to use the dreamscape divination method. To perform this method, Klein needed to engrave the issue to be resolved in his mind. He would then enter a dream and make his astral projection enter the spirit world to receive hints. For ordinary people, they can still see symbols through dreams, but those symbols are often complex and vague, making them hard to remember. However, for a seer, this issue does not exist, so Klein could see several vivid images directly related to the issue he repeated 7 times to resolve. As a result, Klein saw a young man with blonde hair and a hawk-like nose frantically swimming in a sea of blood, terrified and almost getting swallowed several times, but ultimately managing to escape to the shore. The fragmented image then changed, and Klein saw a gray-blue house with a toy windmill placed in front. The young man with blonde hair and a hawk-like nose was slowly walking in, his expression joyful. At that moment, the image changed again, and Klein found himself in a magnificent palace. The walls of this palace had collapsed, looking devastated and in ruins. At one end of the palace, there was a large throne carved from a stone, inlaid with jewels and gilded, seemingly not meant for a human. Outside, the white clouds were close to this place. Klein intended to step outside to observe which location this was, but suddenly he felt a chilling gaze fixed upon him. Klein turned his head to see who it was, but he only saw the enormous stone throne with countless maggots growing rapidly. Klein then awoke from the dream and fell into a state of contemplation due to the puzzling questions haunting his mind. He wondered whether the images related to Joyce Meyer were due to the divination method, and if the events he had just experienced were some sort of omen. He then speculated that the realistic dream with the palace earlier might have been connected to some mystical entity, similar to when he connected with someone through the luck-changing ritual. Alternatively, it could have been brought by the Antigonos family's diary, as Klein suddenly recalled the mysterious whispers he had heard when he first sensed the diary. The content mentioned the Hornacis mountain range, which is known to be the dwelling place of the nation of the Evernight. Moreover, Klein's dream featured a palace on a mountain peak. After that, Klein quickly adjusted his mood and opened the door to the golden crystal room to go outside and meet Anna. Upon seeing Anna, he asked if she had a toy windmill. Anna was astonished that Klein could guess the item she possessed, as it was a gift from her fiancé. Once Anna confirmed, Klein informed her that Joyce Meyer was at her home. He added that if she returned immediately, she would find him there, shaken from a recent accident and in need of her care. Although still skeptical of Klein's words, Anna hurriedly ran to the carriage to return home. Of course, she also didn't forget to give Klein a generous amount of money. When she arrived home, Anna saw Joyce Meyer waiting for her. The two of them hugged silently outside the grayish-blue house. The toy windmill turned slowly, seemingly tossing all their difficulties far away.